You know that feeling when you've been working towards some kind of big inner change, and then you get there and it just feels, well, normal? Yeah, there's no flash of light, no angelic choir. It just feels ordinary. So today, we're going to dig into exactly why that happens.
So let's start with the big question, the one I think we've all asked ourselves at some point. What is real, deep change supposed to feel like anyway? You know, we get all these ideas from movies and books, but what's the reality of it? And this right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the problem. We're all waiting for that huge breakthrough, right? That dramatic, life-altering moment. But the reality, it's often just ordinary. And that gap, that space between what we expect and what we get, is what makes real transformation so darn confusing.
So let's just dive right in and tackle this idea head on. We're going to deconstruct what I'm calling the myth of the breakthrough. This belief that change has to be some kind of big, loud, cinematic event to be real.
Now, the reason we fall for this myth is actually pretty simple. It comes down to something that's deeply wired into our psychology, this deep craving for contrast. Our minds are basically built to look for a really clear before and after, and if it doesn't get one, it gets, well, a little suspicious.
So what do we really mean by contrast? Well, think of your brain as this incredible pattern-matching machine, and the easiest, most satisfying pattern for it to spot is a sharp difference. You know, like intense effort, followed by sudden relief. A long, hard struggle, followed by that sweet reward. That's the signal our brain is looking for to go, aha, okay, something important just happened here.
And here's the kicker. If a new state of being just shows up without a big fight, without all that tension leading up to it, our brain doesn't have that dramatic contrast it was looking for. And because of that, it slaps the label underwhelming on the whole experience. It's kind of like expecting a massive fireworks show and getting a quiet, beautiful sunset instead. I mean, both are amazing, but only one matches the expectation for noise and bright lights.
Which leads us to maybe the most counterintuitive piece of this whole puzzle. Real, lasting change isn't always about adding something new to the mix. So often, it's about what's been taken away. It's really the art of subtraction.
Okay, this is so important, so just let this sink in for a second. In this quiet, ordinary state of being, nothing new is actually added to your experience. You don't suddenly get a new superpower or a magical insight that wasn't there a moment before. Your thoughts? They still happen. Emotions? They still come and go. And life? Well, life just keeps on going. The thing that's actually changed is the absence of something. You know that constant low-grade, unnecessary strain that used to be there with everything? That's what's gone. The friction has just been removed.
And you can see why it's so incredibly easy to overlook this, right? Because the change is defined by an absence, not a presence. Our minds often just dismiss it entirely with this very specific internal monologue.
The first thought that usually pops up is just pure disbelief. It feels way too simple, way too normal. Nah, no way. This can't possibly be it.
And right after that comes the dismissal. Since there was no big bang, no lightning bolt from the heavens, the mind just concludes, see, I told you, nothing actually happened.
And finally, that's when the self-doubt starts to creep in. Everyone else talks about these profound experiences. I just feel normal. I must be doing it wrong. I must be missing something.
But here is the beautiful truth, the answer to all that doubt. What you feel is missing isn't depth. It's not significance. It's just contrast. You were expecting the fireworks, and your brain is still scanning the night sky for them, completely missing the quiet, peaceful sunset that's already here.
So how do we start to reframe this? Well, we have to shift our whole perspective. We have to stop looking for something phenomenal, you know, a special feeling that we can celebrate, and start recognizing something functional. A state that's not meant to be put on a pedestal and admired, but is meant to be lived from every single day. I love this metaphor from the source material. It's like breathing without obstruction. Think about it. When you can breathe freely and easily, you don't stop every few seconds to go, wow, isn't this amazing? I'm breathing. No, you just breathe. You just get on with your life, totally supported by this effortless, fundamental process.
Or here's another way to think about it. It's like standing without tension. When your posture is just right and you're perfectly balanced, you don't notice all the tiny muscles working in perfect harmony. You just stand. The absence of strain is the sign that the system is working perfectly. And that, right there, is the key. This state isn't some thing or some event that you can point to and analyze. It becomes the new ground you stand on. It's your new baseline. You don't point to it, you simply live from it. And because it's the new normal, it becomes invisible. All of this brings us to our final thought. And it's a really powerful reevaluation of what the word ordinary can actually mean. So if your inner world starts to feel ordinary, please don't make the mistake of thinking it's insignificant. It might just be the clearest sign there is that the change has really taken root. It could mean that you finally put down all the heavy baggage, that nothing extra is being carried anymore, that this ordinariness is actually freedom.
Which leaves us with one last really fascinating question to just sit with. Once we let go of all that striving, what's actually left when there's nothing to improve, nothing to maintain, and no past state you need to get back to? What is simply here?